My husband betrayed me with an affair, blaming my infertility for his actions. Hurt and abandoned, I fought back with evidence and strategy, securing my future and proving my strength in a battle for justice and self-worth. My name is Josephine, and I'm 32 years old. I've been married to Elias for 7 years. We met in college, back when life felt simpler and full of promise. He was charming then, tall, with dark hair and a laugh that could light up a room. I'm the practical one, the planner, the person who keeps everything together. I liked knowing where things were headed, and Elias used to say he loved that about me. But somewhere along the way, that man disappeared, and now I'm left picking up the pieces of a life I barely recognize. It started about a year ago. Elias began staying late at the shop where he works as a mechanic. At first, I didn't question it. Cars break down, clients get demanding. I got it. I trusted him. But then the signs crept in. He'd tilt his phone away when I walked by, mutter vague excuses about hanging out with the guys, and once I caught a whiff of cheap floral perfume on his jacket. It wasn't mine. I wear vanilla. I'm not the type to snoop or accuse without proof, but I'm not blind either. My gut told me something was off, and I couldn't shake it. One rainy Tuesday night, I hit my limit. He stumbled in at midnight, reeking of beer and that same perfume, claiming he'd been fixing a transmission. I waited until he was in the shower, the water drowning out any chance he'd hear me, and I grabbed his phone from the kitchen counter. My hands were trembling as I unlocked it. His password was still our anniversary, which stung even more. That's when I saw her name, Cora. She was 25, a bartender at some dive near his shop. The texts went back months, flirty messages, late-night plans, even a photo of her leaning against him, her blonde hair spilling over his shoulder. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I'd be sick. When he came out, towel around his waist, I didn't even try to play it cool. "Elias, who's Cora?" I said, holding up the phone. He froze. Then his face hardened. "What the hell, Josephine? You're going through my stuff now? You don't trust me. Don't you dare." I snapped. "You're the one sneaking around. How long has this been going on?" That's when he turned it on me. He didn't even flinch. "Maybe if you could have given me a kid, I wouldn't need to look somewhere else." It felt like the air got sucked out of the room. We'd been trying for a baby since year 2 of our marriage. Doctor after doctor, test after test, and every time it came back the same. My ovaries weren't cooperating. I'd spent nights sobbing into my pillow, blaming myself, while Elias sat beside me, promising it didn't change us. Now here he was, weaponizing it. "You're blaming me?" I said, my voice shaking. "You think that excuses this?" He shrugged, cold as ice. "I'm a man. I've got needs. Cora gets that. She's young. She's fertile. Not broken like you." Broken. That word sank into me like a splinter. I stood there, staring at this stranger I'd shared a bed with, and something inside me cracked. I didn't scream or throw things. I just turned and walked to our bedroom, locking the door behind me. He didn't knock. He didn't care. The days after that were a blur of hurt and silence. Elias didn't apologize. He acted like I was the problem. He'd come home late, or not at all, and I'd lie awake in our lumpy double bed, the same one we'd bought secondhand when we moved into this cramped 2-bedroom house. The beige walls felt like they were closing in, the hum of the fridge in the kitchen a constant reminder of how empty everything was. I'd stare at the ceiling, replaying his words, wondering how he got here. Back in college, Elias was different. We met at a party, me in a borrowed sweater, him spilling beer on my shoes while apologizing with that goofy grin. He wasn't perfect, but he was mine. We'd spend weekends driving out to the lake, just the two of us, talking about the future. He wanted kids, a big family like the one he grew up in. I wanted that too. When we got married, in a little courthouse with mismatched chairs and a flickering fluorescent light, I thought we'd make it work no matter what. But life doesn't care about promises. The affair wasn't the only thing tearing me apart. Other problems started stacking up, each one making the mess harder to untangle. My mom, for starters, was no help. She's old school, the kind of woman who thinks a wife's job is to keep her man happy, period. I called her a week after finding out, desperate for some comfort. "Men stray sometimes, Josephine," she said, her voice crackly over the phone. "You need to step up, cook his favorite steak, or something pretty, remind him what he's got at home." I gripped the receiver so tight my knuckles went white. "He's cheating, Mom." He's blaming me for not having a baby. How do I fix that? She sighed. You don't give up on a marriage. Fight for him. I hung up feeling worse than before. Then there was Hunter, my older brother. He's 35, a construction worker with a temper and a protective streak. I didn't tell him right away. I knew he'd lose it. But he stopped by one Sunday, saw my red eyes and the half-empty wine bottle on the counter, and pried it out of me. That bastard, he growled, pacing the living room. I'll break his damn jaw. I begged him not to. He'd just end up in jail, and I'd have another mess to clean up. Hunter's always been my rock, but his hot-headedness was a problem I didn't need. Money made it worse. Elias started spending like we were millionaires. New boots, dinners out, stuff he never cared about before. I manage our finances, so I saw the charges. $80 at a steakhouse, $150 at some jewelry store. When I asked him about it, he smirked. Cora deserves nice things. What's your problem? My problem was we were barely paying our $900 rent on this place, with its peeling paint and leaky faucet. We'd been saving for a house, 5 years of pinching pennies, and now he was torching it. I started siphoning my paycheck into a secret account, leaving just enough in our joint one for bills. It felt wrong, but I had to protect myself. His family piled on too. His mom, my mother-in-law, is a tiny woman with a sharp tongue and blind loyalty to her son. She came over one afternoon, her gray hair pulled tight in a bun, and sat me down like I was a kid in trouble. You're pushing him away, Josephine, she said, sipping tea from one of my chipped mugs. He's under stress. No wonder he's straying. I tried to explain. He's cheating. He's spending our money. But she cut me off. A good wife fixes things. Don't lose him over pride. I stared at the scuffed linoleum floor, biting back tears. She left, and I felt like I'd lost an ally I never really had. Work became another battleground. I'm a receptionist at a small accounting firm, and my boss, Landon, noticed I wasn't myself. He's in his 40s, quiet but kind, with a habit of leaving coffee on my desk when I looked stressed. Everything okay, Joe? He asked one morning, leaning against the filing cabinet. I mumbled something about personal stuff, but the next day, Elias showed up at the office, loud and angry, demanding to know why I'd frozen him out. Landon stepped in, told him to leave, but not before Elias made a scene, yelling about how I was ruining his life. I hid in the bathroom after, splashing cold water on my face, wondering how much lower things could get. I was falling apart. I dragged myself to work, come home to a house that smelled like stale laundry and regret, and cry until my throat hurt. The living room, with its sagging couch and the TV we'd bought on sale, felt like a museum of a life that didn't exist anymore. I'd look at our wedding photo on the mantel, me in a simple white dress, Elias grinning, and feel this ache I couldn't name. But one night, sitting there with a cold cup of tea, I hit a turning point. I wasn't broken. I was tired, hurt, furious, but not broken. Elias didn't get to decide my worth. I started fighting back. First, I gathered evidence. I saved every text screenshot, recorded him ranting about Cora when he was drunk, documented the bank charges. It made me nauseous, but I needed ammunition. Then I called Quinn, my high school friend turned lawyer. She's 33, fierce, with short black hair and a no BS attitude. We met at a coffee shop, the kind with scratch tables and too loud music, and she pored over my files. He's screwed, Joe, she said, tapping her pen. Infidelity, wasting marital funds, will nail him. It wouldn't be cheap or easy, but I trusted her. Money-wise, I got smarter. I couldn't stop Elias from draining our joint account, so I funneled every dime I could into my new one. He didn't notice, too busy buying Cora necklaces. Hunter offered to help, slipping me $200 from his last job. Don't tell Elias I'm involved, he warned. I didn't plan to. His family was tougher. His mom kept calling, leaving guilt-trippy voicemails. You're throwing away a good man, she'd say. I stopped picking up. My mom doubled down too. Sent me a long text about saving my marriage. I ignored it. Cutting them off left me isolated, but I needed clarity. The end came 4 months after that first fight. Elias stormed in one night, eyes bloodshot, and dropped it like a brick. Cora's pregnant. I'm done with you. I stood in the kitchen, the fluorescent light buzzing overhead, and just stared. You're leaving because I couldn't have a kid, and now she's pregnant? I said, voice flat. Yeah, he replied, tossing clothes into a duffel bag. She's giving me a family. You can't. But he left, the door slamming behind him. I sank to the floor, tiles cold against my legs, and let the tears come. Hours passed, me curled up, the house silent except for the drip of that stupid faucet. But then I stood, wiped my face, and called Quinn. He's gone. File it. The divorce was brutal. Elias lied, said I'd been cold, claimed I stole his money. Quinn shredded his story with the evidence. I got half our savings, the beat-up Toyota, and alimony since his income outpaced mine. Cora stayed out of it, but word got around she wasn't happy with Elias's drama. Guess he wasn't Prince Charming after all. Now, 6 months later, I'm in a tiny apartment, peeling wallpaper, but mine. I quit the firm, took a better gig at a clinic, and started night classes for medical assisting. Elias and Cora? Struggling, from what I hear. Babies cost money, and his charm's wearing thin. Reflecting on it, I'm thankful. Not for the betrayal. That still stings, but for what it forced me to become. I used to think I needed Elias, needed everyone's approval. Now I know I'm enough. The old me would have clung to him, begged, lost herself. The new me fought and won. So what do you think? Did I handle it right? Should I have confronted Cora, pushed harder with his mom, left earlier? Maybe I could have tried mom's way, fought to keep him. I'm proud of what I did, but I wonder, was this the best path? What would you have done? Tell me, I'm all ears.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our daily updates.